You can't keep doing this.
It's my decision, not yours.
This is tearing us apart.
The morning Uncle William announced he was handing Golden Lotus Restaurant to Diana, I was standing over a pot of faux broth that had been simmering for 18 hours. My hands were red from handling chili paste, the same recipe my grandmother had perfected over 40 years, brought with her from Saigon in 1983. The steam rose between us like an invisible wall. Uncle William didn't look at me when he said it. Aunt Patricia folded her arms, her face unreadable, and Diana, she stood there in her pressed blazer, fresh from her MBA graduation, with a smile that said she'd been counting on this moment all along. I stood there in my chef's whites, stained with fish sauce and turmeric, the ones I'd worn since I was 23 years old, and I understood something simple and crushing. I had spent 12 years cooking my soul into this place, and they had already decided I was just the help. Before I tell you how I took back everything they thought they could steal from me, let me ask you this. Have you ever been overlooked for someone less qualified? Have you ever built something with your bare hands only to watch someone else take the credit? Drop a comment. I need to know I'm not alone. And if you want to hear how I reclaimed everything they thought they could take, hit that subscribe button for Stillwater's Payback. This story is just getting started. My name is Maria Nguyen, 35 years old, and I've been working at Golden Lotus Restaurant since I was tall enough to reach the counter without a step stool. My grandmother, Ba Lin, started it in 1983, back when Little Saigon was just a handful of houses and a gas station. She cooked everything by hand, learned every customer's name, remembered their birthdays, their kids' names, the way they liked their coffee. When she got too old to manage it, Uncle William and Aunt Patricia took over. And when I turned 23, I started washing dishes. 5 years later, I became sous chef. I was the third generation to stand in this kitchen. My cousin Diana was always different. She was 7 years younger than me, the baby of the family, the one who got away with everything. While I woke up at 4 in the morning to prep broth, she slept in. While I learned the recipes, the timing, the art of making bon xiao that shattered when you bit into it, she went to business school. She came home on holidays, posed for pictures in front of the restaurant sign, posted them on social media with captions like "Family Legacy" and "Grateful for my roots." She'd never sliced a single piece of beef for pho, but she was charming. She knew how to talk to people, how to make my uncle and aunt laugh, how to spin every situation in her favor. I was the worker, she was the personality, and somewhere along the way, my uncle and aunt started to believe that personality mattered more than skill. The restaurant wasn't just a business to me. It was the smell of butter and basil that clung to my clothes. It was the rhythm of kneading dough until my shoulders ached. It was the way Mrs. Hua Tron came in every Saturday for Bun Bu Hui and told me stories about her late husband. It was mine in every way except on paper. I never asked my uncle and aunt about succession planning. I just assumed it was mine. Foolish, right? I know. But when you pour 12 years of early mornings and late nights into something, you stop thinking about the paperwork and start thinking it already belongs to you. That morning started like any other. I arrived at 4:30, unlocked the back door, turned on the ovens, and started the first batch of broth. The restaurant had a particular quiet at that hour, the kind that felt sacred. Just me, the warm glow of the stoves, and the knowledge that in a few hours, people would line up outside for what I made. My uncle and aunt arrived at 6 o'clock. That was unusual. They usually didn't come in until 8, after the morning rush had started. Uncle William looked uncomfortable, tugging at his collar. Aunt Patricia wouldn't meet my eyes. Then Diana walked in, dressed like she was going to a business meeting, heels clicking on the tile floor. "Maria," my uncle said, "we need to talk." I wiped my hands on my apron. "Can it wait? I've got 3 orders going out at 7. "It's important," Aunt Patricia said. We sat down at one of the small tables near the front window. Diana sat across from me, her hands folded neatly on the table. My uncle pulled out a folder, the kind with a legal logo stamped on the front. "We've been thinking about the future of the restaurant," he started. "Your aunt and I aren't getting any younger, so we want to make sure the business stays in the family." I nodded. My heart started to beat faster. This was it. This was the conversation I'd been waiting for. "We've decided," Aunt Patricia said slowly, "to sign the restaurant over to Diana." The words didn't land at first. They hung in the air like something mistranslated. I looked at Diana. She was smiling, not apologetically or sadly, just smiling. "What?" I said. My uncle cleared his throat. "Diana has a degree in business management. She understands branding, marketing, expansion. She's got ideas that could take this place to the next level." "I've been working here for 12 years, I said. My voice sounded far away, like it was coming from someone else. "And we appreciate that," my aunt said. "But running a business is about more than cooking. It's about vision." Diana leaned forward. "I want to modernize the place. New logo, social media presence, maybe even franchise opportunities. This restaurant has so much potential." I stared at her. "You don't even know how to make a proper bowl of pho." She laughed, a light, dismissive laugh. "That's what staff is for." She said it like I was replaceable, like the 12 years I spent perfecting my grandmother's recipes, learning the quirks of the ovens, and building relationships with suppliers meant nothing. "You'll still work here, of course," my uncle added quickly. "We're not asking you to leave. You'll keep doing what you do best." "Under Diana?" I said. "She'll be the owner," my aunt said, "but you'll still be the head chef." Head chef. Reporting to my younger cousin, who had spent a total of maybe 30 days in this restaurant her entire life. I looked down at my hands. They were stained with flour, the nails permanently discolored from years of working with broth. I looked at Diana's hands, manicured and smooth. "When?" I asked. "The papers are being finalized next week," my uncle said. I stood up. My chair scraped loudly against the floor. "I need to get back to work." "Maria," my aunt started. "The dough doesn't wait," I said. I walked back into the kitchen, tied my apron tighter, and kept working, because that's what I did. I worked. I stayed late that night, long after everyone else had gone home. I cleaned every surface, organized every shelf, and checked every recipe card. Then I sat on the floor in the empty kitchen and cried. Not because I was sad, but because I was angry. Angrier than I'd ever been in my life. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of the last 12 years. Every early morning, every burnt batch I'd redone, every holiday I'd spent in the kitchen instead of with friends, and every time a customer told me my Ben Xiao was the best they'd ever had. And I realized something. I didn't need their restaurant. I could build my own. The thought was terrifying, thrilling, and completely insane. But once it entered my mind, I couldn't let it go. I started planning the next morning. Before heading to the restaurant, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook and started writing. Recipes, suppliers, costs, location. I knew every vendor we used, every distributor, every trick for keeping costs down. I had 12 years of knowledge they couldn't take away from me. And I realized they didn't take my restaurant because it was never theirs to give. It was mine. I just had to prove it. The next few days were a fog. I showed up, did my job, went home. Diana started coming in earlier, walking through the kitchen with a clipboard, taking notes, talking about optimizing workflow and reducing waste. She hired a consultant, a man in an expensive suit who knew nothing about cooking but had plenty to say about profit margins. One afternoon, Diana cornered me near the walk-in fridge. "I know this is hard for you," she said, "but I really think we can make this work. You're incredible at what you do, Maria. I need you." I looked at her, really looked at her. She believed what she was saying. She genuinely thought she was being generous by letting me stay and work in the place I'd built. "Sure," I said. But every night, I went home and planned. Within a week, I had a rough business plan. I knew my advantages. I knew every supplier, the meat vendor who gave us the best cuts, the herb lady at the farmer's market who saved the freshest Thai basil for us, the guy who imported the right kind of rice noodles from Vietnam. I knew my grandmother's recipes, the real ones, not the watered-down versions in the laminated cards on the wall. I knew the costs, the timing, the entire operation inside and out. Most importantly, I had 12 years of relationships with customers who trusted me. I contacted Chef Rosa, my mentor from culinary school. We met at a coffee shop in Westminster. When I told her what happened, she didn't look surprised. "Your uncle made a mistake," she said, "but you're not making one. You're going to need help." She introduced me to a food consultant who'd helped 5 restaurant startups succeed. We met in her office. I laid out my vision. Small, focused menu. Traditional recipes done right. No gimmicks, no fusion nonsense. Quality over everything. The consultant ran the numbers. "You can do this," she said. "Start smaller than Golden Lotus. Lower overhead, more nimble. Focus on what you do best." Within 2 weeks, I contacted a real estate agent. "I need something in Little Saigon," I told her. "Close enough to compete, far enough to build my own identity." She showed me 3 locations. The third one was perfect. 4 blocks south of Golden Lotus, a small storefront empty for 8 months, floor-to-ceiling windows, open kitchen concept so customers could watch me cook. The rent was reasonable, the space had good bones. I signed the lease the same day Diana officially took ownership of the family business. Nobody knew. Not my uncle, not my aunt, not Diana. Just me and my plan. I kept working at Golden Lotus every morning. I watched Diana change the menu, cutting my grandmother's traditional dishes to make room for trendy items she'd seen on Instagram: pho tacos, banh mi pizza. She hired a food photographer before she hired a decent line cook. She switched suppliers to cheaper options. The fish sauce wasn't the same. The herbs weren't as fresh. The broth wasn't simmered long enough. She was optimizing for profit margins and social media posts, not flavor. Every night, I went to my new location. I painted the walls myself. Warm cream with bamboo accents. I installed shelves, arranged the kitchen, set up equipment. I bought secondhand, but quality. A good stove, proper ventilation, industrial-grade woks. I tested my recipes over and over until they were flawless. I called in favors from the old suppliers, the ones who'd worked with my grandmother. They remembered her, they remembered me, and they were willing to give me a chance. I decided to name it Ba's Kitchen. Simple, honest. A tribute to the woman who started it all. Every night, I left Golden Lotus exhausted, then spent 4 more hours building my dream. Diana thought she'd won, but she didn't know that while she was busy making my grandmother's recipes Instagram-worthy, I was preparing to show her what legacy really means. The day before my grand opening, I walked into Golden Lotus for the last time. Diana was at the counter, scrolling through her phone, probably checking engagement metrics on her latest post. My uncle and aunt were in the back office, going over invoices. I untied my chef's whites, folded them neatly, and placed them on the counter. "What are you doing?" Diana asked, looking up. "I'm done," I said. "Done with what?" "Working here." Her face went pale. "You can't just quit. We have orders. We have customers expecting you." "I gave you 1 month notice like a professional," I said calmly. "Today's my last day." My uncle came out of the office. "Maria, let's talk about this. We can work something out. Maybe a raise, better hours." "There's nothing to talk about," I said. "You made your choice. Now I'm making mine." "Where will you go?" my aunt asked, her voice shaking slightly. I smiled. 4 blocks south. Grand opening tomorrow. Ba's Kitchen. The silence that followed was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. Diana's face shifted from confusion to anger in seconds. "You can't do that. This is our neighborhood, our customers. You can't just steal our business." "I'm not stealing anything," I said. I'm giving people a choice, and they're free to choose. My uncle stepped forward. Maria, this is family. Your grandmother would be disappointed. That stopped me. I turned back. My grandmother taught me that family supports each other, that you honor the people who show up every day and put their heart into the work. But you chose Diana, so now she gets to prove she can run a restaurant without me. Chuk my man. I walked out the door and didn't look back. The next morning, I opened Ba's kitchen at 5 o'clock sharp. The sign outside was hand-painted by a local Vietnamese artist, my grandmother's face smiling from a traditional design. Inside, the space felt warm and alive. Photos of Ba Lin lined the walls. An owl's eye hung in a frame. The open kitchen let customers see everything I did. My menu was simple. My grandmother's original pho with 18-hour broth, bun bo hue done the right way, bon sale, et shattered when you bit into it, café sua da with homemade condensed milk, che, the Vietnamese desserts Ba used to make on special occasions. Everything authentic, everything made with respect. I'd sent personal invitations to 75 of Golden Lotus's most loyal customers, not to poach them, just to let them know where I'd be. Mrs. Hua Tran was my first customer. She walked in at 6:15, looked around with tears in her eyes and smiled. "Oh, Maria," she said, "this is exactly how your grandmother made it. I can taste the love." By 7 o'clock, there was a line out the door. The Nguyen family, 4 generations strong, came in together. "We followed you here," the grandmother said. "Golden Lotus changed the recipes. It's not the same anymore." By 9 o'clock, I'd sold out of Bon Sale. By 11, word was spreading through the Vietnamese community like wildfire. Around 1 in the afternoon, I saw Diana walk past the window. She didn't come in, she just stood there, staring at the line of people waiting to order, her face unreadable. Then she turned and walked away. That night, I counted the register. I'd made 3 times what I expected, not because I charged more, but because people kept coming back, ordering extra, telling their friends. I went home and slept for 12 hours straight, not because I was tired, but because for the first time in weeks, I felt peace. The second week was harder. Diana launched a social media campaign, posting about the original Golden Lotus, family recipes passed down through generations, heritage and tradition. She ran promotions, buy one, get one free, 20% off everything, free spring rolls with any order. She hired a professional food photographer who made everything look beautiful under perfect lighting with carefully arranged garnishes. It worked for a bit. Some customers went back, curious about the changes, wondering if Diana had really improved things. But they came back to me, because Diana had changed the recipes. She'd swapped my grandmother's carefully balanced formulas for cheaper ingredients. The pho broth was thin, simmered for only 6 hours instead of 18. The fish sauce was a different brand, harsher, less complex. The herbs weren't as fresh. The bancel batter was off, too thick, not crispy enough. And people noticed. Mr. Ben, a regular who'd been coming to Golden Lotus for 20 years, walked into Ba's kitchen one morning with a takeout bag from Diana's place. "I need you to settle something," he said. "This pho doesn't taste right. Did they change the recipe?" I looked at the bowl. Too pale, under-seasoned, wrong meat cut. "Yeah," I said, "they did." He shook his head. "That's a shame. Your grandmother would have been furious." "She would have," I agreed. He ordered 2 bowls from me and left Diana's bag on my counter. "Tell them they lost a 20-year customer," he said. That kept happening. One by one, the people who'd built Golden Lotus into what it was, people who remembered my grandmother, who'd watched me grow up behind that counter, made their choice, and most of them chose me. Diana called me 3 weeks after my opening. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Maria, we need to talk. This isn't fair. You're stealing our customers. You're destroying everything Dad and Mom built. This is family. Call me back." I deleted it. My aunts called next. "Maria, please," she said. "Diana is struggling. Can't you two figure out a way to work together?" "She didn't want to work with me," I said. "She wanted me to work for her. There's a difference." "She's your cousin," she said. "And I'm your niece," I replied. "But that didn't matter when you handed her everything I built." My aunt was quiet for a long moment. "We thought we were doing the right thing," she finally said. "For who?" I asked. She didn't answer. But it wasn't just my immediate family. The Vietnamese community elders started calling. Mrs. Pham, who'd known my grandmother since they came over on the same boat, called me one evening. "Maria," she said gently, "you're making the family look bad. This public competition, it shames everyone." "With respect, Mrs. Pham," I said, "I'm not competing, I'm just cooking. If people choose my food, that's their decision." "Your grandmother would want family harmony," she said. "My grandmother would want quality and honesty," I replied. "She taught me that the work matters more than appearances." Some elders understood, others disapproved. I heard the whispers at the Vietnamese supermarket, at church, at community events. But I also heard the other whispers. "Have you tried Ba's Kitchen? It's what Golden Lotus used to be. Maria learned from Bao Ling herself. The food is incredible." By the end of the first month, Ba's Kitchen was thriving. I'd hired 2 full-time staff, both young Vietnamese American women who wanted to learn traditional cooking. I taught them everything, the way my grandmother taught me, with patience, with respect, with understanding that this wasn't just food, it was culture, history, love made edible. Golden Lotus, on the other hand, was struggling. Diana had fired Mrs. Kim, a server who'd worked there for 15 years, for not adapting to her new standards. She'd switched to even cheaper suppliers. The quality decline was visible. Her Instagram posts got fewer likes. The comments turned negative. The promotions got more desperate. 30% off, free delivery, 2-for-1 specials. One evening, I was closing up when Uncle William walked in. He looked older than I remembered, his shoulders slumped, his face tired. "Can we talk?" he asked. I wiped down the counter. "Sure." He sat at one of the small tables and looked around. "This place," he said quietly, "your grandmother would have loved it." "I know," I said. "I made a mistake," he said. "I thought Diana needed the opportunity more than you. You were always so capable, so independent. I thought you'd be fine no matter what. But Diana, she needed the structure, the responsibility." "So you gave her mine," I said. "Yes," he said, his voice cracking, "and I'm sorry." I wanted to feel vindicated. I wanted his apology to fix something, but it just felt hollow. "Uncle," I said slowly, "I didn't need you to give me anything. I needed you to see me, to value what I'd already given." He nodded. He didn't argue. "Diana's talking about selling," he said after a moment. "She can't make the numbers work. The customers aren't coming back." "That's not my problem," I said. "I know," he replied. He stood up. "I just thought you should know. And I wanted to say I'm proud of you. I should have said that 12 years ago." He left before I could respond. 3 months after I opened Ba's Kitchen, Golden Lotus closed its doors. Not dramatically, not with any big announcement. Just quietly, one Tuesday morning, a closed sign appeared in the window. A week later, a for lease sign went up. Diana moved to San Francisco, took a marketing job at a tech startup. We haven't spoken since. My uncle and aunt sold the building and retired to Arizona. They stop by Ba's Kitchen sometimes when they're visiting family in the area. It's awkward. They order pho, tell me it's delicious, ask how business is going. I'm polite, I serve them coffee, but things aren't the same. Maybe they never will be, but that was their choice, not mine. Ba's Kitchen isn't just surviving, it's thriving. I've expanded twice now, hired 8 employees, started doing custom catering for weddings and Vietnamese community events. I'm teaching cooking classes on weekends, the same way my grandmother taught me. Families come, parents and kids and grandparents, and I show them how to fold the perfect bánh xào, how to know when pho broth is ready by the smell, how to balance fish sauce and lime and sugar in nuoc chang. 6 months in, something unexpected happened. A Vietnamese-American food blogger with 300,000 followers came through. She posted about Bo's Kitchen, called it a hidden gem in Little Saigon, the kind of place that reminds you why traditional cooking matters. The post went viral. Suddenly, people were driving from Orange County, from Los Angeles, from San Diego, just to try my pho. The LA Times food section did a feature. New restaurant honors tradition while creating its own path, the headline read. They interviewed me about my grandmother, about learning from her, about what happened with Golden Lotus. I didn't badmouth my family, I just told the truth. Sometimes you have to walk away to find your own path, I said. The attention brought offers, franchising opportunities, business partnerships, investors who wanted in. I turned down most of them. This isn't about building an empire, I told them. It's about doing what I love the way I want to do it. But I did accept one thing. Chef Rose's culinary school asked me to be a guest instructor for their Vietnamese cuisine classes. Not to give away my grandmother's secret recipes, but to teach the techniques, the respect for ingredients, the understanding that good food takes time. Last month, Mrs. Hua brought me an old photo. It was from 1985. My grandmother standing in front of the original Golden Lotus, holding a tray of spring rolls, smiling that same smile I remembered from my childhood. She'd be so proud of you, Mrs. Hua said. I put the photo on the wall behind the register, right next to my business license and the first dollar I ever made at Bo's Kitchen. Late one night, Diana called. I almost didn't answer. Maria, she said. Her voice sounded small. I saw the article in the LA Times. Yeah, I said. I paused. I didn't think you'd actually make it. I thought you'd come back after a few weeks. I thought you needed us. I didn't need you, I said. I needed to be valued. There's a difference. I know that now, she said. Another pause. I ruined everything, didn't I? I could have said yes, could have listed every mistake she made, every customer she lost, every shortcut she took that destroyed what took 40 years to build. But I didn't. You made choices, I said. We all did. Do you hate me? She asked. I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. I don't hate you, but I don't trust you either. And I'm not interested in fixing what you broke. Fair enough, she whispered. Here's what nobody tells you about revenge. The best kind isn't loud, it isn't dramatic. It doesn't require confrontation or cruelty. The best revenge is building something so undeniably good that it speaks for itself. Every morning when I unlock Bo's Kitchen, I think about my grandmother, about the way she treated every customer like family, every bowl of pho like it mattered. I think about how my uncle almost took that away from me by handing it to someone who saw it as an opportunity instead of a calling. But he couldn't, because it was never his to give. It was mine. It always was. Last week, a 19-year-old girl came in asking if we were hiring. She reminded me of myself at that age, eager, hungry to learn, passionate about cooking. I hired her on the spot. Now she shows up at 5 a.m. asking questions about broth ratios, herb balance, the perfect temperature for frying bain sao. I teach her the way my grandmother taught me, patiently, thoroughly, with respect. Because that's what legacy actually means. Not a name on a building, not ownership papers or business degrees. Legacy is what you pass down through your hands, your heart, and your willingness to see value in the work itself. Diana got the restaurant, but I got the legacy. And in the end, that's the only thing that matters. If you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or told you weren't enough, let this be your reminder. Their limitations aren't your ceiling. Their choices don't define your worth. Sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away from the table they set for you and build your own. Thank you for watching this story on Still Waters Payback. If it resonated with you, drop a comment. Have you ever had to prove yourself to family who doubted you? I read every single one. And if you want more stories about people who turned betrayal into triumph, hit that subscribe button and click the bell so you never miss our next story. Trust me, the next one's even better. See you in the next video.